Ms. Tin Pei Ling and Mr. Yip Hon Wing have noted that our real reliability as measured by mean kilometers between failure, or MKBF, is at its lowest since 2020. In 2017, then Minister for Transport, Mr. Khaw Boon Wan, set an MKBF target of 1 million train kilometers between delays exceeding 5 minutes. We surpassed this target in 2019, and we have remained above it ever since. This number for the 12-month period leading up to August 2025 is approximately 1.7 million train km, and this is lower than our peak MKBF of over 2 million in 2022 and 2023, but still higher than the 1 million target. Mr. Sharul Taha asked how our MKBF compares internationally. Using MKBF and other indicators where comparisons are available, our MRT remains one of the most reliable in the world. Singapore's MKBF in recent years is higher than Hong Kong MTRs, though lower than Taipei metros. For the number of service delays exceeding 30 minutes per million train kilometers, our MRT performs about the same as metros in Tokyo and other Japanese cities. I've asked LTA to publish these comparisons regularly because Singaporeans often compare our MRT to these systems. Our journey to achieve 1 million train kilometers was by no means easy. It was the result of years of hard work by thousands of people, including many engineers, technicians, and service staff who work day and night to keep our train services running. I want to thank Ms. Yeo Wan Ling for asking about the work hours, the safety and well-being of our rail workers, many of whom are Singaporeans. Rail operators are required to ensure that workers maintain appropriate rest periods, and there are strict controls to prevent excessive overtime. And I assure Ms. Yeo that we take the safety and the well-being of our rail transport workers very seriously. And I myself have personally visited workers often since I became Transport Minister. They are part of my One Transport team, and I'm committed to taking good care of them. Should we set an even higher target for MKBF? Mr. Sharil asked this. It's a reasonable question, but beyond 1 million train kilometers, actually variations in the MKBF become less meaningful. And this is because the number of disruptions per year are very small. Let me give you an example. For the downtown line, the maximum MKBF is about 8 million train kilometers. It achieved it in 2023 and 2024, but just one additional delay halved it to 4 million. Another drawback of the MKBF indicator is that it does not really measure the length of the disruption and hence the impact on the commuter. For example, a complete service stoppage is treated the same as more frequent minor incidents, even when trains are moving and passengers are able to carry on with their journeys. The LTA does consider commuter impact in the financial penalties that are imposed on operators for serious disruptions. And to Mr. Louis Chua's question, LTA has imposed an average of around 4 such penalties per year in the past 5 years. We also use other measures to track the performance of our rail network. Some of these are published, such as the delays more than 30 minutes, which I mentioned earlier. And there are other indicators, such as the punctuality of trains reaching each terminus station and the proportion of scheduled mileage traveled by revenue trains. And LTA tracks these too. I've asked LTA to share more of such data publicly, even though they are fairly technical, so that interested commuters and colleagues can have a better and fuller picture of our performance. We will be transparent because we have a good system and we have nothing to hide. I want to assure members that I take every single rail incident very seriously. I'm personally alerted whenever there is a train incident, even when it's late into the night or during engineering hours. And we want to be accountable to commuters because this means that when an incident happens, we will learn from it, we will do our utmost to prevent similar faults from recurring. And accountability is also why I asked LTA last Friday to put out the whole list of incidents that have happened since July this year, with our assessment on the causes and how these problems were or are being resolved. As members have also asked questions on specific incidents, I will cover this very briefly in the interest of time and invite members to ask, or rather to invite members to refer to LTA's news release last Friday for further details. Ms. Siow, Ms. Polisan, Mr. Ng Chi Meng, and Associate Professor James Lim asked about breakdowns for the North East Line and the Sengkang Punggol LRT in August. As LTA had explained, two faults occurred at a substation at Sengkang Depot on 12th of August, which cut off power to several parts of the North East Line and the SPLRT. Works to repair the damage commenced that night. Unfortunately, before the repair could be completed, a damaged cable caused a separate power fault on the LRT 3 days later. Ms. Po asked why it took a longer time to recover service on the LRT on the 12th of August, and this was because LTA and SBST had to take some time to determine that it was fully safe for the power to be turned on. The root cause of these faults are still being investigated. The faulty components have been sent to the manufacturer for checks, and LTA is also investigating whether there were any lapses in maintenance. And if so, this will result in regulatory action. I want to also assure members that immediate action has been taken to avoid a recurrence. LTA and SBST have tested cables along the entire SP-LRT network and will replace all voltage transformer panels across the North East Line intake substations. And we have already planned to install a secondary power supply source at Sengkang LRT Depot by the end of this year, which will provide further redundancy. Mr. Edward Chia and Mr. Liang Enghua asked about our findings on the two Bukit Panjang LRT incidents in July. We have traced both incidents to a malfunctioning network switch. As the switch was intermittently functioning, the defect was only discovered after the second incident. Mr. Liang asked if the disruption could have been avoided. As the network switch was well within its design life, the malfunction unfortunately was not anticipated, but this defective switch has been replaced and sent to the manufacturer for investigation. LTA and SMRT have also put in additional measures to detect such network instability in the future and enable the power system to automatically recover in such instances. Mr. Jackson Lam and Ms. Rachel Ong asked about incidents on the North-South and the East-West lines. The incident on the East-West line on the morning of 6th of August was caused by a faulty point machine near Jurong East Station, one of our busiest stations. Point machines physically move the rails so that trains can transfer from one track to another. And therefore, for safety reasons, train had to be slowed down until after the morning peak when the point machine could be fixed. And this resulted in more crowding than usual during the morning peak hours. Mr. Lam asked about maintenance regime for point machines and whether we could have picked up the fault earlier. Operators do carry out periodic inspections and comprehensive regular overhaul, including functional tests as per industry best practices. Unfortunately, the fault on 6th of August was detected just before the start of service and could not be resolved by the morning peak. On the separate incident on the North-South line on 2nd September, this was caused by a stalled train, which had to be physically pushed out to Canberra Station to disembark passengers. The problem was traced to a faulty connector, which has since been replaced. Mr. Jackson Lam also asked about the number of signalling-related disruptions on the North-South line in the past year. There was only one such delay on the 13th of June, where the travelling time between Ang Mo Kio and Choa Chu Kang was extended by 15 minutes and normal service resumed within an hour. These recent incidents happened across different MRT lines with different causes. But we want to take a harder look to satisfy ourselves that there is no systemic problem. And that is why I announced last week that I had tasked the Chief Executive of the Land Transport Authority, Mr. Ng Lang, to chair a rail reliability task force, which will include the CEOs of the two MRT operators, Mr. Nian Hunping of SMRT and Mr. Jeffrey Sim of SBST. This task force was focused on 3 areas. First, it will bring forward the renewal of critical components, especially power supply and signaling for the North-East Line and the Circle Line. Second, it will jointly conduct audits on the maintenance and operations of critical systems, including maintenance processes as well, and staff training. Third, it will review service recovery processes so that we can better support commuters who are caught in a train disruption. And here, the train operators have been informing commuters of service delays in excess of 10 minutes as required by the LTA. And in response to Mr. Louis Chua's question, the LTA has not had to impose any penalties on this in the last 5 years. But this is still only a basic requirement, and I think we can do better. For instance, commuters should have more precise information on alternative transport routes and additional travel time, depending on their specific location rather than through generic advisories. And they should also be able to get the information at a single centralized location, possibly on a single app, so that they know exactly where to look during a stressful disruption. These things we can improve, as well as physical things like directional signs and officer discretion on the ground, or officer reactions on the ground. Mr. Speaker, the recent disruptions have inconvenienced many commuters. I understand the frustrations, and I want to assure commuters that we are doing our best to improve our performance. We know we can do better because our rail reliability has indeed been better in the last few years. But even with the recent disruptions, our MRT system remains one of the most reliable in the world. Train delays happen in every system, in every city. Our phones, our computers have to be restarted every now and then. Cars will break down too. So will our trains. We want to absolutely minimize disruptions because of the inconvenience to commuters, and we will work doubly hard to do so. But what is equally important is when a disruption inevitably happens, we can support commuters and guide them to continuing their journeys safely with their understanding and cooperation.